So good morning,
Hello.
good afternoon, and hello, all of our friends and family that have been following our Flip the Script journey here down in Barbados. We're actually gearing up. It's the 31st of January.
So it's 1 month since we arrived on the island. So we arrived here December 31st to ring in the new year in our new life.
That's right. And right now, what has happened actually in the month since we have arrived? Many of you have been loving our photos, different things like that, time on the beach, just seeing some of the things, and we've been incredibly happy here. There has been a serious COVID spike that has taken place in the past month. They have done an incredible job of actually running COVID through much of 2020. The tail end of the year, there was a little bit of some issues, and the UK strain has hit the Caribbean
Recently, as of this week, I believe it was.
Yeah, so we're actually getting prepared to go into a little bit of lockdown here. But why don't you just share a little bit about what the experience has been like for you? I'm gonna actually try and stream this on my
I think
own
the
page.
experience so far has been better than we had expected. We anticipated, or I would say we have been waiting for that moment of what the heck did we just do? And thinking, okay, it should come soon. It should come soon. And it hasn't come yet. And I think it's a little bit of seeing the kids transition so well. They really have not skipped a beat. They feel right at home. We've settled into routines and we're just loving it here. So we're yet to have that, oh crap moment of what did we do?
Exactly.
It's more, thank goodness we did this.
It really has been. And leaving California, one of the most common questions I think we got was when we were leaving was, or statements that we got, oh my gosh, you guys must be so excited that this has got to be a dream come true.
A year-long vacation.
And we've gotten that. And it's interesting. There's elements of, yeah, we can walk out to the beach and that's amazing, but we're living here. So we've got to work. We've got to get kids to school. We've got to go through shopping. We can't just operate like we're on vacation. We got to budget, live through some of those pieces. There's certain elements of living here that are definitely more expensive. But before we get into that, we were reflecting last night and put together just some notes, just kind of on the fly that we were kind of thinking about.
Kind of been journaling
journaling.
bit, touching bases, just checking in on each other, make sure everything's going good,
Yeah.
So I think that's been helpful in the mornings.
Big time. And leaving California was not easy. It was not easy. We're incredibly happy with our choice, but what was that like for you when you left?
I feel like we spent so much time preparing, the purging, the getting ready. And I thought we would get to a point where it was going to be a couple weeks of smooth sailing. Okay, we got everything done. We're ready to go. Let's just enjoy our last couple weeks in California. And it was crazy, literally crazy until the second we left. And I guess we'll talk more about the airport fiasco, but literally until the second we left San Francisco, it was chaos. We didn't really have the time to, sit back because of COVID. We didn't have time to see friends and family before we left, like we typically would, or have a proper going away celebration type thing. So we did spend the holidays on Zoom and said bye to our families primarily on Zoom and friends. So there were a lot of emotions and it was just a different feeling.
That's right. And one of the things somebody told us, we held the signs up backwards. So our bad on that, we're going through this. So This was supposed to read. All right, but
in our screen it looks backwards, so we flipped them.
Backwards, so we kind of flipped them. This is what we intended to have here, right? So here are some reflections for a lockdown for 2 weeks. So even in paradise, even in a beautiful part of the world, there's different challenges that we have to work through. When we were leaving San Francisco, this was a story we actually didn't share and haven't shared recently. But one of the things that happened to us was we checked in our 24, well, had our 24 pieces of luggage. Some of them were checked in under the plane. Some of them went with us.
And that was because we decided to not ship a thing.
That's right.
So that is why we traveled with so many suitcases.
That's right.
And the suitcases we did have some clothes, but primarily it was school supplies for the kids, like all of their books, music equipment, so food.
That's right.
So yeah, we did show up to the airport with a lot of stuff. And luckily we got there 3 hours early because we needed every bit of the 3 hours.
We counted about 7 people walking from the check-in, which did take a bit of time, up to the gate. 7, 10 people maybe. It was empty, the flights traveling down. Now we got to the gate in San Francisco, and we had just gone through the stress of completely purging, putting a lot of things in storage, selling off some of our stuff. We got to the gate in San Francisco.
As we approach.
As we're approaching, there's nobody else there. The gate agents, there's 4 of them standing there, and they point and they look at us, and they're on the phone. They say,
they're approaching right now.
They're approaching right now.
And it was clear because there was nobody else approaching that it was in regards to us.
So what happened?
So they tell us, okay, we have a little bit of a problem. You need to present your negative COVID test in order to board this flight. And we had gone through the whole process. So there's protocols in place for traveling to Barbados. And we had actually called. So essentially you have a 72-hour window of arriving in Barbados. You must have a negative test within 72 hours of arrival. So you have to strategically plan when you get your COVID test to correlate getting the results back and not going beyond those 72 hours. So we had contacted JetBlue and said, do we need a negative COVID test to board the plane? Because if that was the case, we would have taken 2 COVID tests to make sure we were in the time frame for arrival in Barbados, and then 1 to be able to board. So we contacted them. We're told, no, you do not need 1 to board the plane. You follow the protocols for entry into the country that you're going to. So when they called us out and said, you need to have this to board the plane, we went, oh crap.
So what ended up happening, folks, was the protocols had actually changed. So this is an important nugget for anybody that is going through any sort of international travel. The protocols had changed in between the time that we had taken our test on the 28th.
We took it on the 29th.
29th.
And they changed the night of the 28th.
And I think they changed the night of the 28th. So we thought we were good. And we were, actually. We were good. What happened was the gate agents from San Francisco, because they didn't deal with the full extent of travel all the way to Barbados, like the New York-based crews were dealing with, we ended up having to kind of talk through. We showed all of our paperwork. We presented that we have printed. Our visas. Everything was printed, not just the electronic versions. So having all of that, one of the things that the lady basically told us was, well, that's fine, but if you get to Barbados and you need to return, not only is that going to be on your dime, but JetBlue would get fined. And that was their stipulation. And we said, there's a good chance that we will have our COVID test show up in flight to Kennedy. Now, if we wait until that point, and then we travel tomorrow night, our window in Barbados to actually get in is not going to work. And then we're going to have to basically get into Barbados and then have to completely retest. So she listened actually to the amount of insight that we had. And she said they clearly know what they're talking about when she was talking to
They've done their due diligence.
Kennedy-based crew. She said, I'm going to send them to Kennedy, but when they get there, you guys have to make the decision. When we got to Kennedy, got on our plane, there was no issues with us boarding. Our results actually showed up in flight to Barbados.
Well, what's funny is mine showed up while we were waiting. So we had a 4-hour layover in Kennedy.
That's right.
And so mine showed up, but nobody else's did. So everything else happened while we were in flight, which is what we anticipated.
And there was no issues boarding in Kennedy.
None at all.
And when you get to Barbados, they actually have, if you have a negative PCR test go in this line. And I think we even have footage of that where it shows if you don't, you go into a separate line.
Yeah.
And that being said, with the new spikes that are taking place here on the island, that might be changing a bit. We're not sure how that's going to evolve. And we've had a lot of you reach out to us, friends and family, that are expressing interest in coming down, visiting us. And we cannot wait to have that happen. That being said, there's the reality of the situation right now is that it can take, it might take you when you get in here. The quarantine process is very serious business. And anybody, friends and family that are coming here, we would want you to be aware that you need to follow that completely stringently to make sure that you're taking care of everybody that's here, that's a local on the island, us that have come in, that are living here on the island. We want to make sure that we're doing the right things. But that process now, because of the backlog in testing, is taking up to 10 days.
Clearly, definitely into 10. And they're very, very strict with their protocols. So even if you know somebody on the island, you have to quarantine at a government approved facility. So we wouldn't be able to host anybody. So essentially you could be in quarantine. We were 7 days. And now the time frames are a little bit longer because there's such a backlog. So I would anticipate at least 10 to 12 days of being in quarantine. And that's in a hotel where you're confined to your room. So when everybody's been reaching out asking, hey, can we come travel and visit? You'd have to anticipate potentially 10 to 14 days of being in a hotel, not able to leave.
That's right. So it's just kind of it's really a very fluid situation. And we think over the course of the upcoming months ahead, things are going to kind of evolve here. And the big issue is the UK strain has made it to the Caribbean. So we're working through that. So that's just a little bit of the flow of the pulse of where things are at in the island. We do appreciate the love on the, on
we do want to see you all.
And the love, we appreciate being able to go out to the beach. Some of these elements, even that's going to be minimized here for the next 2 weeks. So we might do, we're contemplating doing a couple more lives, getting the kids in here as well, sharing their perspectives on what the first month has been through. A couple of things that I know we wanted to share as we were reflecting last night also for us. So one of the big challenges, as you're aware, was Liz been learning to drive on the other side of the road. We'll have more on that.
I still haven't attempted it.
Lisa
Kira asks me daily when I'm going to go drive.
I'm a week into it, and you're on these narrow roads. Some of the roads are under construction. And in the United States, if there's an open trench and there is pipe being put in and it drops down 6-10 feet, you would have a concrete barrier on that. Well, here you have just a narrow road and there's little garbage bins that are up, little oil drums, and there's like basically, caution tape that goes around that. So if you have to swerve because there's a bus that's coming, you just need to be mindful of how that's going to come out. So that's been some adapting. Driving at night has been interesting with the lights being different, but it's coming together. We're feeling that. For us, we do feel very, very happy here. And we are enjoying that. The process of just getting a vehicle, we're a week plus into this, and we believe we have about 85 or 90% of it together. There still seems to be a couple of little things we're working through. We do have insurance, we have our licenses, and a lot of the paperwork on weighing the vehicle, on getting it inspected at the Vehicle Licensing Authority, which was a 7-hour process. We'll share more about that in the future. That was quite a journey, but we'll get into that in the future. Lisa, what have been some of your big ones? We're not going to be on here all day, but I just wanted to share a couple of pieces with you.
I think the things that I've enjoyed the most month one has been the one-to-one time with the kids and the less distractions. So we have phones. So our phones do work here for texting. We have a local phone, but our phones, we can't receive incoming calls. We can receive texts. So that's been incredibly helpful to detach a bit because you're forced to, and your phones don't work unless you have Wi-Fi. So when we're out doing our morning walks or at the beach, you have no distractions, which seems small, but when you come from the US, like we have it's in your pocket all the time and it's buzzing and it's hard to detach. I think that has been one of the benefits for me personally is being present, having the conversations uninterrupted at dinner, at walking down, our morning walks, the beach. You don't have that, oh, I need to tend to this business or whatever, I've loved that.
Yeah, that's been really cool. And I think it boils down to, we came into 2021 with some really powerful family goals of making sure that we were present while being present. So I'm going to make a true confession with you. I made it on the launch of the book Incredible Parent by my colleague, my dear friend Brandon Miller and Annalyn Miller, our dear friends, with their book Incredible Parent that launched on our first day that we moved in here. And it was the fact that in 2020, even though I was personally home more, I wasn't traveling as much. I can't remember a season where I felt more disconnected to my family. So businesses, we navigated through the immense, incredible challenges of navigating through COVID, transitioning our team and our clients to full remote work. But the lift in doing that really disconnected me personally from the family. And I just wasn't going to have that again in 2021, especially Kira's turning 8 and different things. And even in that, as she had turned 8 last year. Yeah. But as we were thinking about it, a lot of the bonding experiences that her and I really relished and shared. We did a lot over karate when we trained at School of the Tiger. And that just wasn't happening. And because I'm her dad, I didn't really teach her martial arts. I allowed the other instructors to, but it was something that we did together and we really had a good connection. So
since she was 3.
Yeah, since
she was always 3. Something you guys did together.
And that bond, her and I have always shared that, but that was starting to kind of be tested a little bit. And she was going through some changes, some challenges. So I personally committed to, this year is going to be the year that I'm making sure when I'm present with my family, I'm present with my family. And Barbados has forced us to do that. And I want to be very clear, you don't have to move to an island to sort that out. But for us, being super intentional about, we want to focus on our parenting, on being together as a family, that's important because you can be together, but not together. And I was very guilty of that. I would see the kids in these little pockets last year and I'd want to connect. And that wasn't happening as much. Even more so with Kira for some reason than with Preston. She was really gravitating to you. We are doing our walks down the hill and she's a little faster than her brother in walking. So her and I, we've been getting our one-to-one time. We've been swimming, which has been super cool. There's a pool here in the townhouse community that we live in. Kira started off week 1, couldn't swim across the pool. Within 3 days of that, we had her swimming across the pool. I've been working with her and that's been amazing. So I couldn't be happier about that. But I think it boils down to the importance of being present when present and really focusing on what do you want and what are you willing to do to make that happen. And I don't mean what do you want, like you have to move across oceans like we did. We focused on this on a very much a family side. So if you're wrestling with that right now, maybe that's something you can kind of think about. So that was one of the pieces. What's work been like for you a little bit? Like you're still,
I'm loving the work.
And Lisa is still helping out clients in California with real estate, but how's that been coming together and what's that setup process been
What's really nice is we have a 4-hour time difference from California. So we're 4 hours ahead, which at first we thought, oh man, it's worked out so well because by the time we get started, so we are early risers, not quite as early as California before we left, but we still do get up early. And the amount of work you can get done before 8 o'clock California time is pretty incredible. And then we spend the mornings, the kids start school at noon our time, which is 8 o'clock California time. And it allows them to wake up. They usually wake up around the same time. They were getting up at 5:30, which we said, y'all need to sleep a little bit more. But the mornings are relaxed. and we're able to be pretty productive before we do our morning walks. And then Darren usually does work and I help the kids through school. And then in that time I get some work done, and then the evenings get some work. So you're not necessarily doing a full 8 hours in a day. It's just kind of broken up, which feels really good.
You were doing completely a full 8 hours in a day. You're just not doing 8 consecutive.
Right.
So you were doing 8. There's days where I feel like I've done 9 or 10 hours, but it's spaced in these pockets. So I might go in, hunker down heavy for 2 hours, 3 hours, lock in, knock it out. And then I've got a little bit of a pocket. And instead of just flooding my time to try and keep pushing and grinding, which is an attribute, a lot of times we get hung up on these whole productivity notions. I was guilty of that. And I've said, well, what if we flip our script on how work is being done? Can we get the same things done? And that's exactly what's happening. You can tell we're outside in our yard. The winds are picking up right now. So that has been a big part of it for us. Setting up here, another cool thing on flipping our script was the internet here. It's actually really, really stable.
Much better than California,
solid.
Actually.
So what we've had here is there's 5G internet within our home. So we're getting 300 megabytes or whatever it is, more of my technical stuff. We upgraded to that. What the basic internet came with was good enough for doing basic meetings and different things. Some of you might know, I do podcasts with Leading Strong for 34 Strong, my company. We do a leadership podcast there. And then we've had some interviews. I've had my other podcast, The Nature Advantage. I needed a little bit more, upgraded internet. So we upgraded a little bit. It's up to a 5G piece. And we just got a booster for upstairs. And that connectivity has been more stable. So in California, we'd have it, but there'd be a little bit of blips on the Wi-Fi. And what we found here is the Wi-Fi connection is far more stable. I've even had my some friends that have commented on that from meetings as to how stable it was. I hope it's holding up stable right now. So maybe that's the case.
It helped Kira's schooling too, because in California with her connection through Zoom for virtual learning, it was cutting out every single day, multiple times a day. And we haven't had any issues at all here, which has helped her stay less distracted.
That's
school-wise.
That's right.
It's been a huge improvement.
That's right. And other little things that we've adapted to. So we had we have a third bedroom that's here. That's kind of serving as my office. There's a bed in there and a day bed, but we had to go through a few different configurations to make that feel right, to make our master feel right. So interestingly enough, my music room my basses had been in the office area, but it was just feeling cluttered, and our master felt cluttered because it was a day bed that the house came with.
Huge day bed.
Big day bed that was in the master. We literally just swapped that out. My office has opened up a lot, and my basses have moved into our master, and that's feeling a lot more fluid for us, and that's feeling really, really good.
Well, I'm excited to so we were looking at desk options, and finding a desk isn't as easy as you would anticipate. In the US, you go to the store, you pick out your desk, you take it home. It's been a little more challenging. So my work area is the dining table, which is a little struggle. And we had somebody that was introduced to us that will build us a desk. So
and there's a lot of that here.
Yeah.
A lot of that. You'll actually be able to get stuff if you actually spend time and connect with a lot of the locals, which we've done. Just really talking to people when you're in line for 7 hours at the DMV here, the licensing authority. We made some great friends there, and now we're talking. They're helping.
Everywhere you go,
literally, you go to the grocery store, you become, everybody is just very social, grabs the phone numbers, different things, but everybody is so willing to help. That has been, when they find out, they've been so willing to help us with kind of going through, and then we try to help and do what we can as well.
So we have somebody that's going to build. We had Kira pick out, what she would want in a desk, and so he's going to build that for her. And then I'm going to have a little desk in the master, just to have a small, nothing fancy, something small to put your stuff in, and we'll see how that goes. But it's a fun process to be able to help the locals too,
They've been hit
back
very,
to
very
the
hard
community
by COVID. They're talking about in 2020, tourism took a 90% hit. Now, keep in mind, a big part of the Barbados economy was tourism.
Right.
So it has been very, very painful to many here. And we've just been really trying to be mindful about that, getting out, just like we did in the US. We'd go out, we were intentionally picking different small businesses that you're going out supporting just to help different communities, but we've been trying to find out pieces like that as well. So from the food standpoint, let's transition into that. You want organic foods here? Walk down the street, go talk to there's plenty of vendors that right up north of here, about 20, 30 minutes up the road from us is the parish of St. Lucie. And there's many other areas as well, but they're growing incredible fruits, vegetables, different things like that. Right here above us, our neighbor's yard, there's coconut trees that are right up here. You can't see them here, but they're right here. There's locally grown spinach, okra. You can even get some of that at some of the kind of Costco type places that are here. But if you just go down the street, there's plenty folks that come out that are selling it, and it's all plantains, yams, sweet potatoes, okra, local lettuce that's grown that's right here that you can support right at the street shop. And we've been loving that. I've been cooking lots of okra. Okra's been amazing. I experimented with plantains yesterday, and they came out pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
We're gonna be picking up some more of that. So
we'll have to show some of that.
We're messing around with culinary experiments and kind of slowing things down in the kitchen. Now, this is fascinating to all of you in the U.S. We have a dishwasher here. We have not used a dishwasher in a month outside of using it as a drying rack.
It is a drying rack.
A lot of local Barbadians will have dishwashers, but don't really use them. Our property manager, Sharon Thomas, big shout out to Sharon Thomas with
amazing.
Futura. She has been absolutely incredible, has helped us out in so many ways. She told us that when we first came here, and we just decided, well, why don't we just start hand washing and doing that? And it's actually been helping us it's actually been faster, believe it or not, for some of those pieces. Clothes racks here. I don't know if you can see this kind of hanging out. I'm pulling this out. That's how we're drying our clothes here, because it will cost you basically half your salary to dry your clothes here because of how much energy the dryer is going to take. So we have clotheslines that are set up. We haven't used the dryer here, period.
No.
We are kind of going through that route, which, many of you in the States, many of our friends in the States might have been doing that in-house with different pieces, but we've adapted in that area. And that's been super.
And the kids actually like it. They're helpful with putting the clothes on the line or emptying the dishwasher. So their willingness to do chores or help around the house has been mind-boggling, in that we don't have to ask them multiple times. They're willing to, they enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
They make their bed every single day. They establish routines day one.
That's right.
And it was without us prompting them.
That is absolutely right. We were blown away with some of the stuff that they have gotten into that literally changed at the snap of a finger. The first day that we woke up here in our place on January 8th, their beds were made, they were fully dressed, their teeth were brushed, and they were ready to go. Yeah. And that has not changed. Weekends, weekdays, no battles. And that was always a battle back in Elk Grove. Every day, getting them out of bed, that was a challenge. So that has been huge. Their cooperation, their notion of team pieces have been really, really amazing. And then on the observations with the kids, they have really been seeming to love it. Here's the part that's been fascinating for us. And this is probably one of the last things that we'll share with you before we sign off for this round here, is the little pieces of emotional and psychological baggage that we were both carrying that we had no idea we were carrying until we were here and let go. Why don't you share the time this really happened to Lisa? She was followed at Walmart once when I was traveling, and it was terrifying. Why don't you share a little bit about that and what has shifted since we've been here?
So that was one of the factors in considering moving outside of our little bubble that we were in. Was, are we raising our kids in an environment that is best for them? So it was a combination of all of the mass shootings that were taking place and the fact that we went to a local store. It's less than 2 miles from our house. And I vividly remember because typically we wouldn't go at, it was still daylight, you know, it was 7 o'clock at night. Kira needed something for school the next day. And I think she needed cupcakes or something. And so we ran in literally to go get some cupcakes, mini cupcakes, and pulling up a van pulled right in front of us. And you wouldn't typically think anything of it, but you know, Sacramento is a huge hub for human trafficking. So we had grown to be more aware.
Hyper vigilant.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, rarely would Lisa actually go shopping with the kids on your own at night or any of that.
Definitely not at night.
But yeah, you weren't doing that. I was the one that was taking them out. But anyhow, go on.
So you grow to be aware, and something seemed off about this van with some gentlemen in it. And come to find out, we walk in the store. They happened to be grab the cart. They happened to be right next to us, and went through the store. They were in the first aisle we went to, and I thought, wow, this is really strange. So I decided to go to another aisle. Same thing, one on one end, one on the opposite end. And this proceeded for 4 to 5 aisles. They were on following through and then were on the phone. So, you know, I had the kids in the cart, literally put them in the cart so they're not walking around and I can see them. And we were escorted out. So when we went to pay for the cupcakes, we got escorted out.
Because you requested it.
Yeah. And there was no hesitation. They said, of course, escorted us out to the car. And as we said goodbye and thank you to the person that escorted us, those gentlemen were getting into that van. So and
there was a lot of stories like that taking place in Elk Grove, which we love Elk Grove. We love the community. We love the town. But there was so many stories that we had heard of that which is moms just doing a general run in the middle of the day and experiences that they had.
And the kids grew to know the tone of my voice. So when I told them, I think Preston was already in the cart, but I told Kira to get in the cart. There was no hesitation because she knew just by the way I said that something was up. And so what's ingrained in them, was this underlying fear. And I mean, it's good to be aware. We're still aware here, but we're not fearful of our kids getting snatched at a grocery store or 2 miles away.
Or the psychological concerns. I mean, we're very vigilant, aware of where the exits are when we go into supermarkets here. Yeah. Do I now think of when I go into a store, what happens if I hear a bang? Is that gunshots going? I don't think that doesn't even enter my mind. And I was telling Lisa this just over dinner. And it's been these pieces like that have been fascinating because of the lens of like, we were hyper vigilant. We were very aware of those elements and thought of what we would do. But what was the psychological trauma that we were experiencing for ourselves and even our kids just hearing that on a low grade? And this decision, remember, the decision to move here was made for us in August of 2019. And that was what was transpiring at the time. So that has been phenomenal. And there's a whole host of other pieces like that have kind of tied in.
One of the first things the kids said, we were maybe a couple days into living here. They came up and they said, Mommy, Daddy, it's so cool that we can just go play outside in the front yard and we don't have to ask you for permission and you don't have to be there watching us. And it was like light bulbs, like that is so crazy that they feel that and they can't experience. We talk a lot about Barbados is bringing back a lot of our childhood memories.
That's right.
Of just being free. They have toys here that we grew up with.
And they're running around on the side here. And even if they go in front, that's been part of it. And there's been a lot less concern and concern about that, which has been cool. So those have just been some of the pieces that we've gotten through that really made it make sense for us in flipping our script. And what you see here, I remember several times we've been walking with the kids and people, or we're playing at the beach and somebody will come up and say, hey, you might want to watch out with this area on the rocks. They've had some lionfish that have been spotted here. People will just come out, go out of their way. They're walking on the street and they come down, see us, they're playing, and will tell us, be careful on this area. We're aware of these things. And we'll tell you more about lionfish later and some of those different areas. We were walking on the street, we were walking up the hill, and one of the kids decided to just run up the hill. And this was on an area where there's sidewalks. So we're on the sidewalk.
We'll have to show you the sidewalks.
But the sidewalk is not like a
different.
sidewalk like you would see in the US.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more bumpy. There's rocks and it's narrow. And if they trip, they fall into the street, right? So they're running along. They ran. One of them took off running, and somebody from across the street or somebody who's driving by slowed down, stopped, and said, hey, make sure you don't run on that sidewalk. Be very careful. And these are things that we're both saying to ourselves, like, I wouldn't do that in the US because somebody would tell me like, hey, what are you doing? And kind of going through that.
But it's out of pure care and they're looking out for them. It's not, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. They genuinely want them to be safe. And they're going to stop and tell you, hey,
they're going to stop and tell us.
And the kids respond.
Preston stopped to tie his shoe, and he was in a safe spot off in a corner off on the sidewalk, and somebody was driving by, a taxi, actually a bus driver was driving by, slowed the bus down, stopped and said, hey, your little guy is back there. And he was maybe 10 feet behind us. We had slowed our pace down, but he was just letting us know out of that concern. So the amount of iterations that takes place is interesting. People honk here a lot, not to give you, you know what, looks kind of like that. And that's actually how Preston points. Instead of pointing like this, he points
always
with a different finger. We'll get into that later. But people in that space, they honk, and it's all just, hey, how's it going? That's a positive way to say hello. So you hear horns going a lot. Nobody's upset. It's a honk and a smile, thumbs up, different things like that. And that's been cool. That's been some getting used to. So we're adapting. There's been things that we've been going through to adapt. We have been loving it here. We definitely miss our friends and our family in the United States. And we hope that these videos can help us stay connected in some way. We'd love to hear from you. We can FaceTime a lot as well too. So through WhatsApp. And again, our numbers have all stayed the same. We're very much reachable. So contact us, reach out, and also just let us know if there's things that you want us to answer, questions that you have, like what is it like to transition here? Tell us, and we will gladly shoot some content like that for you. We want to know what you're interested in knowing
what do you want
about.
To see?
What do you want to see?
What do you want to know?
What do you want to know
We're
about
open books.
what it's like to flip the script, the good, the bad, and the ugly in the journey? We're going to share that as we're going along. So we just thought we dropped this with our first month being here, and you know, and if you're following along with our journey on the Flip the Script family, this is what our logo looks like. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and with us coming into quarantine, this was more of the adult perspective of the changes that we had.
We'll get the kids. The kids are excited.
We're planning on over the course of the next 2 weeks too. We'll probably give you a little bit more advance notice than just deciding we're going to do this, and
we'll
share the kids' perspective.
Beaches are closed.
Beaches are going to only be 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So we're going to be locked down here pretty hardcore for the next 2 weeks coming up. So anything else you want to share?
I don't think so. Thank you for all your love. We've gotten so many messages and comments, and we thank you for all your love, and we miss you guys.
Absolutely. We do. We'll catch you next time, and share with us if there's anything, again, that we're doing or that you're doing that's flipping your script. Again, you can check out our Facebook page at Flip the Script, the Flip the Script family. We're on Instagram. We're also on YouTube,
Instagram, Facebook.
And share these in any way that you can. Much love to all of you. All the best.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. And we'll catch you next time.